Boom, boom, Mr. Randazzo. Randazzo, thanks for coming on, sir.
Randazzo. There you go.
Randazzo.
You're close.
Gaspare, right?
Yeah,
Gaspare
that you got
Randazzo.
right. Nobody ever gets that part.
All right. So, not a teacher comedian.
I'm a, I'm a teacher who also happens to be a comedian.
Yeah.
They're not the same. It's not my whole life. It's
Yes.
not just like talking about lesson plans and rigor and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, sure.
Rubrics, am I right?
Yeah, like I don't even know what a rubric is. So like I'm not
No,
talking
I
about it.
know.
So yeah, so I am a comedian. So
Comedian.
I've been a teacher for years, 13
Mhm.
years. About 7 years ago, I started doing comedy. I was on a
Okay.
movie set and I was an extra on a movie, just like nothing, BS. And someone on the movie set was like, dude, you're pretty funny. Like, would you ever consider going into comedy? And I was like, I always thought about it. I just never like knew what to even do. So he's like,
Mhm.
come to my mic, open mic, blah, blah, blah. So I went, I did a show with him. While I did the show, there was someone in the audience and he was like, dude, you're really funny. I want to book you on some other shows. How long you been doing it? I was like, it's my first show ever. He's like, oh shit. Like, so then I got booked on a bunch of other shows. Then I was doing stand-up for 6 years or whatever. And
Hmm.
then during COVID, I started making fun of New York City kept like opening schools, closing schools. Like, everyone, the whole country was
Yeah.
doing it, but like
Yes. Yeah.
we were like notoriously like dumb about it. Like,
Yeah.
and like they were like, oh, just have school outside. Well, no, bring it inside. Have it at the park. Bring it to go to, maybe you could all go to your teacher's house if they have a backyard. And I was like making fun of it. I was making all these press conference videos pretending to be the mayor. And my account started to like pick up a little steam through that. And then like all of a sudden, like I was doing shows for like 4 or 5 people, like
Oh yeah.
to like social media started to get bigger and like
Mhm.
I was doing shows for like 280 people. And I was like, holy crap, like how is this even possible? Like
Mhm.
a few months ago I couldn't get anybody. Now I'm selling out shows around the country, not
Mhm.
even just in New
Yeah.
York. It was like around the country. So it was pretty cool, like whole experience of just like how it all moved and how it all just happened. And so like a big part of my content stayed teacher-esque because I
Mhm.
was getting a lot of teachers on my account. So then when I was doing the stand-up, I felt like, well, let me do some teacher stuff since I know they're all teachers and that's what they
Mhm.
want, and then but then thankfully like once the show came out, now that the
Mhm.
show's out, I also have added like stuff about being on reality TV because
Mhm.
like I think the general person is just curious about that stuff.
Mhm.
Like it's cool. Like it's fascinating to even know how people get
Mhm.
on it. Like your chances of getting on TV are like on a reality TV are like 0%.
Yes.
So like, right. I mean, think about it. Like
Mhm.
millions of people or, hundreds of thousands of people
Yeah.
apply for 10 slots, So it's like, and I got on it. So it's like,
Mhm.
it is pretty wild because, yeah. So,
So yeah,
and I
where
didn't
you're talking about the show, The Trust there. And so I was gonna ask, like, I mean, you're comedian by night, teacher by day, right? You're still teaching full time or
full
like still
time. Yep.
teach full time, killing it. How does one end up getting on The Trust after?
So, okay, so I was auditioned for another show. So they had like a History Channel show of like 2 years ago, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we need someone who knows history and is a comedian." So I was like, "Oh shit, like this is right up my
Mhm.
alley." So
Yeah.
I auditioned.
It's the dream.
Yeah, like I went through a few rounds and it didn't happen. They didn't end up picking me,
Mhm.
which is super common, like in the
Yeah.
entertainment world. Not that I'm like been auditioned for a million things, but like I know that that's like a common thing. Like you think you're gonna get it, and then they're like, "Nope, you're not." So I was like, "Oh, I was bummed," but at the same time, I was like, "Whatever." Like I have a full time job, and it was during COVID, so I
Mhm.
was just like, "Whatever." I'll just go back to teaching, and then like fast forward like a year later or a little over a year later, the casting director from that show who auditioned me called me out of the blue. And I was like, I was on the phone with my brother and I'm joking with him because I was like, oh, hold on, Hollywood's calling me because it said Hollywood, California. So I'm like, Hollywood's calling me. And I pick up and they were like, hey, like it is Hollywood. They were like, we
Yeah.
have a show that we think you'd be a great candidate for. Would you like to audition? It's a short list of auditions like they were basically taking from people that they already had like kind of known.
Like scouted
And
a little
then,
bit, yeah.
yeah, so like they were like taking like 5 or 6 people like that. It seemed like from when I met everybody,
Mhm.
and then they auditioned for the rest, the other 5 people.
So how did you audition for a show like that?
Dude, so they tell you nothing about the shows. So they didn't even tell me it was for Netflix. They said it's for a major network that everybody
Mhm.
you know has and everybody shares passwords for. So I was like, okay, I can assume it's
Okay, yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's a pretty big deal. So
Mhm.
I the audition was nothing you could even comprehend because it didn't make sense because you're auditioning for something you have no idea about. So like the questions they
It's
would
kind of
ask.
like teaching a little bit.
Yes. So, but like the thing was, it like starts off and they're like, listen, it's gonna be like a show like Big Brother
Mhm.
esque,
Yeah, yeah.
The Mole esque, Traders esque,
Mhm.
Survivor esque, like, but not those shows.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So like,
Makes sense.
all right, some kind of like reality game show in a house where you vote people off because all those shows
Yeah.
involve voting people off. So I was like, all right,
Yes.
I can live with that. But then the questions would make no sense. Like, you and Lucas both have water, and Lucas is really thirsty, but you're also thirsty. What do you do?
Screw that
And it's
guy.
okay, like I share it with him. Well, do you share it with him? Because now you're about to do a competition that requires a lot of movement and you need to be hydrated. Do you still share it with him knowing that that could hurt your chances of being hydrated? And you're like, yeah, like, because I'm not an asshole. But there are people who are like, hell no, I wouldn't share it. You know what I mean? And there are
Yeah.
people like, I would give the whole bottle to Lucas. Like,
Yeah.
it's people's psyche. You don't know what people are gonna say. And
Mhm.
I don't know what exactly they were looking for, but obviously they were looking for me because that's who they
Mhm.
picked. But like, it's very interesting. Like they ask a lot of questions about like being cutthroat. You know,
Mhm.
like if you and Lucas, it comes down to you two, and you really get to know him, and you get to know his family and his home life. Would you be okay with eliminating him if it meant you made 100 extra thousand dollars? And I'm
That is
like,
a crazy
well,
question.
yeah, and you're like, but you don't know the context of it, so you're
Yeah. It's
like,
like there's lots of
well,
nice people out there. I mean, Lucas was nice, but
and that's the thing. I'm like, well, how close am I with Lucas? Like, do I know
yeah.
him forever? Like, because they
Yeah.
don't tell you like you just met. They say,
Mhm.
or what? Like, like so it's things like that. And then like that's one round. Then it's just like you take a 500 question psychology test, and it's proctored by a psychologist who watches you. So you literally sit and you're answering it, and you have to have your phone on FaceTime while they watch you answering it, and it's 500 questions, and they were the most just like it was a mix. Like a lot of questions were
Yeah,
just
yeah.
straight up like, have you ever thought about killing yourself? If you were to kill yourself, how would you think you would go about it? Like, and you're like, I wouldn't. Like, I wasn't, and it's all multiple choice, so it's
Like
just
teaching's
500.
not that bad. Like I
Yeah, like, but it's
don't
500 multiple choice. So then you're like questioning all your answers because you're like, I just said I wouldn't kill myself, but now they're asking again. Like, oh my God, will I kill my? Like, it's like,
At question 433, maybe I will.
yeah, like, so it's like, and then I don't think there was no, there was no group interviews because we didn't know each other at
Mhm.
all. And it was just like weird, like scenarios. Like it was all
Yeah.
scenario based questions. Tell us the wildest thing you ever did in your life. Tell us your darkest secret. Tell us something no one would know about you. Tell us an interesting fact about your wife, about your life. Like,
Oh, so is this how they got those?
mhm, the
The
secrets.
secrets.
Yeah,
Okay. Because I was wondering, I was like, it makes no sense that they would have to disclose this somehow. Like they can't
yeah.
just like find things out about you, but
In the process of like when they brought out that box of secrets, I genuinely was like, what are they about to say? Because like I'm like, did they like background check? They did tons
yeah.
of background checks. We had to get background checked 3 times through like the FBI, like and stuff like that, because they need to make
Wow.
sure before they put you on a show,
Mhm.
But so it was funny because like I was like in my head, I'm like, what is this background? Like, what are they about to say about me? And like then like the kid Bryce on the show, one of the people on the show, for those of you
Yeah.
who didn't watch, his secret was that he was a millionaire. And
Yes.
like a lot of people like online like killed this guy. Like, why would you tell them that? And he's like, I was never planning on telling
No.
people. Like
No.
that was the secret that they curated through your, through your interviews. Like this guy must have been like, a lot of people don't know I'm a millionaire. And they were like,
Yeah.
cool, we're making this your secret. Like,
We're
they're
making
gonna
this
do things
bait.
that are controversial. They're gonna do
Yeah.
things that are gonna get people talking. And like it
Yeah.
was a shock when they said it in the house. We were all like, "Oh, you're a millionaire. That's kind of
Yeah.
fucking crazy." Like, you know. So
And where when do you kind of go from casting to finding out, and like what's the timeline in between you
dude, it
finding out you
is
went on the show to getting on it and
okay.
starting?
It's disgusting. Ready? October, November, December, I interviewed for like every 2 weeks for 3 months. Like every
Wow.
two,
Okay.
3 weeks. It was like, and then they were like, hey, you're not going to hear from us for a while, but that don't mean anything. And I'm like, well, that's
Another
horrifying.
psychological trick.
Then like in January, like 15th, they like hit me up and they're like, hey, stop booking stand-up comedy shows in March. And I was like, well, did I get the show? And like, we can't tell you. Like we don't know, but like don't book shows because like you're real close. So now I'm like,
Mhm.
well, this sucks because like that's my life, like that's part of
Yeah.
my income. And I'm like, well, I was like, all right. So I was like, it's not a big deal. I just won't book for March,
Mhm.
plug on from February to April, whatever. So my school in New York City, if you're a teacher in New York City, if you can't work two jobs at the same time. So I told my school about this and they were like, you're going to have to resign if you want to take this show. Now, resigning meant like I literally walk away, give up everything, give up my pay, give up my benefits. Now, thankfully, my wife is also in the school, a school social worker. So she has
Yeah.
benefits. So I was like, all right, if I walked away, I go on her benefits, no big deal. I was like, as far as the pay goes, like I'll make it back with Netflix. That's okay. And I
Yep.
was like, and you have 5 years to return back to being a teacher before your license goes away. 5 years is a long
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
Now, the
Yeah.
only thing is you have to get rehired. But I was like, there's a teacher shortage. Like, I'm betting on myself. Like, they don't even have qualified people. Like, I'm pretty good at what I do. And like, I have
Yeah.
great relationships with teachers and principals
Yeah.
all over New York because
Yeah.
of comedy, because of life.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll get a job again. Even if it's not my
Yes.
school, I was like, I
Even
will
just
get.
subbing full time, and like if your wife's got that, like you're breezy.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and you have to you have to give in the paperwork 30 days prior.
Yeah. Isn't it like
So
30
now
school days?
30
Or is
days.
it 30 days? Okay, yeah.
So February, I went to the school basically. Well, the end of February, and I was like, here's the deal. Here are my papers to resign. I don't know if I'm resigning. Like,
Mhm.
but I'm giving you a heads up that in 30 days I will know if I'm resigning or not. I have no idea though if I'm resigning, but the resignation papers don't officially go in until the day you resign. So it actually doesn't matter. You just a formality, you have to give them in 30 days prior. But they literally just sit in the principal's desk in an envelope
Mhm.
until they officially type it and put it in the system. So I knew this. So I said, I'm just going to leave them there. And
Mhm.
if I need to resign, so
Like you
now
could have revoked it if you didn't
I
get it
could have
kind of thing?
revoked it. That's what I'm
Okay, yeah,
saying. Like, I
yeah.
could have been
Yeah.
like, actually, I don't resign.
Yeah.
So February 27th, no,
What's
25th.
that month like for you?
It's brutal because I'm emailing Netflix every day. Like, no, I'm
Yes.
not every day, but
Hey
like every
guys,
2 days, I'm
just
like,
following up. Hope this finds you
just
well.
checking in if anyone gives a shit about me. Because but I kept making it very clear, like I need, like, I'm not an influencer, I'm not a
Yeah.
sub. Like, I
Mhm.
need to tell my school. February
Yes.
25th, they hit me up. They called me and they're like, can you talk? No, they emailed me. I was on stage doing a show in Boston. They emailed me, hi, we would like to schedule a meeting with you tomorrow. I was like, so I wrote back, I said, if this isn't to tell me that I got the show, this is the most messed up email that you could ever send somebody. So they were cracking up. I meet with them the next day. They were like, congratulations, like you're on the show. It was February 26th. I'm like, cool. They're like, all right, we leave March 1st. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I can't. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, I still had to go into my job physically. It was over February break. We have a break in February in New York
Yeah,
City.
yeah.
It was over February break. So I was like, I have to go into my school and tell them. Like,
Mhm.
this isn't just like a call to school and be like,
All right,
hey,
let's
no one's
charge
in.
it.
So like I walked in on Monday. I was like, I got called. And my principal, I got to say, was awesome about it. He was like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity that will probably never happen again. Like you will be kicking yourself for the rest of your life if you pass it up. So he's like, I think you
Mhm.
should go for it. And I was like, thank you. I put in the paperwork. I literally resigned that day. I was taken out of teaching. I jumped on my wife's benefits and I was on a plane the next day to the Dominican Republic.
What's that feeling like of like quitting teaching? Because you're over a decade in. Like that's a
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
big.
13 years in. It was pretty scary, but like I'm not gonna lie, like there was no part of me that felt like I wasn't coming back to teaching.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
fair.
where
It's just
where a lot of
temporary.
where like so it almost felt like summer break. Like I came back after a month and a half, and I was
Mhm.
just like, hey, I'm back. Like and like of course, like there was like so it was awkward because like
Yeah.
number one, people were like, well, you just filmed the show, why are you back? Like, why are you not like a millionaire? And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Number one. Like shows don't just like come out the day you
Here's
film them.
$1 million.
Yeah, like because a lot of people felt like you were filming, where's the show? And I'm like, it's
Yes.
called
It's like
editing.
it's not.
Like takes like 6 to 7 months of editing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but like, there's a lot of fear associated because like when I got back, like I called my school and they were like, yeah, but like there was a lot of hoops I had to jump through. And then like I went back to my same exact pay, got my tenure back, everything went right back to normal.
Oh,
The
okay. So
only
you did
thing,
get the tenure back. Interesting. Yeah.
yep,
Go ahead.
got it back. The only thing is when I retire, I owe them 2 months. Like, because I was gone for 2 months. So I like basically pushed back my retirement date 2 months, which means like when I retire in June, technically I don't retire until October,
October.
which
Hey,
means
you're gonna
like I'll
end on
come in.
Halloween, man. I feel like
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
just
Like I'll
perfect for
come
you.
in what that first month, and then I'll use all my days, and I'll never
You're
come in again. Like
like- you get 60 sick days, right?
I'll have by that, and that's listen. I love teaching, but is teaching forever?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Yeah.
I don't. How long do you guys have to go where you are?
For like teaching until retirement.
Yeah.
It's like a weird, like I'm up in Canada and it's pretty much across the board. It's like, shit, it's like age plus experience has to equal 85. It's like a weird formula
So
where it's
age
like, so
plus
it's
experience.
around, so if I'm 25 and I teach for 30 years, I'd be 55 years old plus 30 years experience. So I guess it kind of depends what age you start. Like there's no like set date. So really 55 is kind of
Yeah.
the
So for
like
us,
53 kind of is probably like the earliest if you start at like a 4-year degree and you're 22 kind of thing. But
yeah. So for us, we can't retire till we're 62, right?
really,
So I started at 21. So that's
that's
40.
crazy.
I have to go 41 years of teaching. Okay. So
Yeah.
I am on year 13, so I still have 28 to go. Like that's insane to me. Like I'm 13
Yeah.
years in, the
That's
system's
yeah.
broken, it sucks. I'm already over teaching. And now like I gotta go another 28 years. And like I'm burning the candle on both sides. Like I got a lot going
Yeah.
on. So it's
Yeah.
like, do I want to do this forever? Probably not. But also at the same
Yeah.
time, like it's a great job. Like there's a lot of perks
Hmm.
to it. Like I can travel on the weekends. I can travel in the summer, like
Yeah.
and do comedy and do all the things I want to do while still making a pretty good salary.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's like, I think the things are starting to get better in teaching because like you said teacher shortage, all that kind of classic stuff is that teachers almost have a bit more agency. Like I don't think you would have been able to go on a Netflix show 10 years ago and just come right back into tenure, you know what I mean? Like I think it's
No, they
just
would have gave me a
more.
hard time.
Yeah. Did you kind of
But
get a
like,
hard time from people when you got back? Like I know you said it was kind of weird a little bit, but like how was it weird?
listen, there's always going to be assholes in life, right? So like, no, but this is the truth. So like, there
Yeah.
were people who were just like bitter in their own lives and like were
Yeah.
jealous or angry, and they were just like, this guy like can just leave and come back and be a teacher again. And I said, well, for the record, I left and got paid $0.
Yeah.
So like, it's one thing
You
if I
took
was
a
getting
risk.
and you want to be mad at me. And that's what I said. I said, I took a risk. I
Yep.
bet on myself. You
Yep.
could take a risk and bet on yourself, but you
Yep.
choose not to. So, like, you can only really be mad at yourself. So, like, the
Mhm.
average person, for the most part, was like fascinated by it. It was interesting. It was cool. They wanted to know more.
Yep.
But, like, there's a few people that, like I could think of two people in particular that I work with that like were just like complete assholes when I came back. 'Cause, like, oh, you leave and you're on Netflix and then you come back and then you're back to being a teacher and all the kids like you and it's like and all the kids hate me. It's like, dude, that's on you.
Sounds like
Like,
you problem.
you don't have to have the kids hate you. Like, and like, and then like when the show came out, everybody like loved coming, we all would get together and watch it. It was
Yeah,
cool, like it came
yeah.
out like while I was at work. It was like pretty
Mhm.
surreal.
Oh,
Like
okay, yeah,
I'm just like in my classroom and the show's just out. Like, so it was pretty cool. So like the first night the
yeah,
show came out, we had a big premiere party.
yeah,
Like I rented out like a local bar, I catered it,
yeah.
and we had like a premiere party. We watched the first episode, we hung out, it was
Mhm.
a lot of fun. But then after that, like, we just like people would be like on episode 2 at their lunch break and like calling me in. And it was funny because the finale came out on a professional development day. So I was
Love
just
that.
walking down the
Oh,
hall
yeah.
and like everybody just had it on in their classrooms with like 5 people just like sitting around watching it because now like you're all
Yeah,
invested and everybody's like,
yeah.
oh shit, like this guy that we just like hang out with is just on TV casually,
Mhm.
just like living on TV.
It's like the guy who teaches, like, Science 9 next door
But
is
that's
on
the
the
thing, like
trust.
people, or like what was cool is like people that you don't really know. Like
Mhm.
I work in a big school, there's 325 staff members. So
Holy.
yeah, there's 4,000 kids. So we're like the size of a town.
Oh
Yeah.
my, a generous town. I mean, we got 1,600 at ours, and we got about 80 staff, and I thought that was a lot to
Yeah.
handle, but
The high school I went to in New York was 5,500 kids in one school. Crazy.
so how many kids are, like, in your class in these?
Like 34.
Okay. So, like, I mean, we're kind of at, like, I'm teaching usually between 30 and 40 in a class. We got
Oh,
smaller
that's
buildings, I guess. I assume you've got the capacity to, like, hold
dude,
that. Sorry, that was kind of a
our
that was kind of
buildings
a
are like
side tangent there, yeah, but, like, how big was your like, how big are those schools?
they're like blocks long. It's like it's like 4 blocks long. Seriously, it's a castle. You know what I mean? It's a fortress. You're 4 floors, probably like I
Yeah.
would say 100, 200. I would say about like 200 plus classrooms.
Yeah. Did you
Oh
notice,
yeah,
like, the students starting to, like, change around you once you kinda, because like, I always kind of ask some of the people who I've had on who are comedians, like, do the students start being more cautious around you once they kind of know their potential, like, joke bait?
cautious. No, they relish in it because to them it's like fun because they're like, "Yo, Randazzo, like write a bit about this." No, you're not funny. Get away from me. Like but like I will say, like when the Netflix show came out, there was definitely a lot of like it was just like surreal for them because it's like once again, like
Mhm.
think about if you were a kid. Like if I was a kid and my teacher was on like The Price is Right, I would have been like, my
Home.
The Price is Right, right? Like or
Yeah,
Jeopardy.
yeah,
I would have been like, my
yeah.
teacher's on a freaking show. Like he's
Yeah.
famous. Like this is
Yeah,
insane. Like,
yeah,
like it would have been like surreal. So
yeah,
like now I'm not only on a show, I'm on a Netflix. Like it was number
yeah,
2 for like 3 weeks to show.
yeah.
Like, so like it was on a huge show. My picture's on billboards in Times Square. Like I'm on billboards in LA. It's
That's
like
weird, man.
like
Like,
I
that
was
wait, how that must have felt strange, like, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I will say,
Yeah.
like, they told me, like, I had a much easier time than a lot of the cast, like, adjusting to it. Because keep in mind,
Okay.
I've been doing the comedy stuff. So, like,
Yeah, like, you've been
seeing,
doing,
like,
like, yeah, you're involved in
seeing, like,
entertainment, so it's
my
not that.
name on a flyer, it's cool,
Yeah.
always to
Mhm,
me. Like, it doesn't
mhm,
get old. But, like, I
mhm.
was like, whoa, I was like, this is different. Like, Times Square, like, on a giant Jumbotron, just like a trailer for the show. Like, that was pretty
Yeah,
cool because that's not
yeah,
just like my poster hanging up outside a comedy club.
yeah.
So, but it was but it was more just like the fact that like like you could go on any moment of the day for like a good 3 week span
Mhm,
if while the show was out because it came out over 3 weeks. Like if I
mhm.
googled my name and refreshed the page, a whole new set of everything would come up. Like, and it's like crazy stuff like
That is
things like
crazy.
like articles that are written about you that have nothing to even do with anything about you. And it's like a full like After the show, Gaspar resigned back to his quaint little town in New Jersey. I don't live in New Jersey. And it's where he continued teaching elementary school. Don't teach elementary school. It's like, but like people just like make up stories about you. Like there
Did you
was
have any hit
articles like,
pieces? That's true fame. Did you have any hit pieces on you?
what do you mean?
Like, did anyone like say anything bad in an article about you at all?
Oh, I mean, look, there was like stupid, like honestly, I must say, like I got it pretty much the best out of the cast. But if you watch the episodes, like
Yeah.
I didn't cause any trouble.
Yeah.
I joked around all the time. So like, whereas everybody else got
Yeah.
killed online, for me it was like all they wrote about me constantly was this guy is the Kirkland brand Nick Miller from the show New Girl. I don't
Yeah.
know if you ever watched it. Or
No.
like they would be like, "Oh, this guy's Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
Horrible Bosses." I don't know if you know who these people
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So like I get like a lot of comments about that. The only comments they ever are negative were like they were like, "This guy's hairline is receding so hard." But like that don't bother me. You know what I mean? Like
No, and that's mostly just fun. And I guess like if
yeah,
you're
that's what I'm
used
saying.
to
Like
just
there
like
were no
joking
like
around, yeah.
I mean, it was very, very little hate stuff. Like one guy was like, "Oh, if I ever met you, I'd spit in your face." So I sent him my tour schedule, and I was like, "Hey, you could catch me on the road. I'll be at these clubs." And I sent it all. And then I was like, my friends were like, "Dude, like this is the type of person who will fly to where you are to beat the shit out of you because like you're poking the bear." So I was like, "You're right." So I took it down.
Well,
But
yeah, because I found it funny because it seemed like, again, you were the only person I had some familiarity with, like when I started watching the show. But I kind of noticed, kind of like you seemed very like calculated, but not. Do you think that's accurate? Like you seemed like you're not trying to rock the boat. You kind of take the like teacher identity lane, not the comedian lane. Do you think? Did you have like a
well,
plan going into that at all, or am I completely
well,
wrong? I
the
could
thing
be,
is, like,
obviously,
there
but
was no plan because we didn't know what the show was about. So, like,
so
my
when did you
plan
find
was
out what it was about?
when I was standing in front of the host and she explained what it was. That was the first time we ever heard anything about the show. Dude, it was 100 degrees. We were standing outside for hours blindfolded. We didn't even know what the place looked like where we were. We were driven in cars, separate cars, to the place. Everyone was blindfolded on the way there. So we didn't even know where we were. We were just blindfolded, just sitting in the back of a car. Then I was
Someone
blindfolded
spits in your
standing
face.
I was blindfolded standing at the edge of the cliff. And if you saw, I was the first person on the line. So I was
Yeah.
the first person who walked down. So literally, they made me take my blindfold off. I was like, "What the fuck? We're on a cliff. What is happening?" And then I
Is this
walked
why they ask the
down.
suicide questions?
Yeah, well, no, this is like in my head. I was like, I've seen enough mafia movies to know how this ends. Like you get taken blindfolded in the cliff.
Guys from New Jersey.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I was like, I walked down and the host is like, "Hey, Gaspar." I'm like, "Hey." She's like, "What's up?" I'm like, "I
Person.
don't know. Like, you tell me. Like, I don't know nothing." And like, we would get along and laugh about it because she was like, "You just were always so New York." Like, she's like,
Yeah.
everything about you. Like, whenever they would like, everyone would be like talking about game and strategy. I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm just honestly like, I'm just trying to hang out, like, have a good time.
Yeah. What do you think, like, because the content of the show I thought was interesting because like there weren't really that many games that you guys played to compete. It was like games to see what you would do if like kind of tested in a scenario like that. Do you think that was kind of like a weird concept for the show? Like, do you think that could like improve the competition aspect of it?
Well, like if I were to improve the show, what I would
Yeah,
do is the games were phenomenal. I don't know how far you
yeah.
got in the
I'm
show.
3 episodes in, so I think there's six
All right, so
total. Am
you
I
didn't
wrong?
see
Yeah,
like too
yeah.
much of like the games get a little more. They're just mind f games. Like
Oh, okay,
everything
yeah.
is to just make you question the person next to you. So like eventually, like we play a game of cards, and it's everybody's names are on the cards, right? And they'll say like, "Who's the nicest person in the house?" So everybody's like, "Lucas is so nice. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah,
Gaspar's so nice. Brian's so nice." You put the card down of the person, and then it's like, "Who's the funniest?" "Oh, Gaspar." "Oh, Brian." Right? And then it's
yeah.
like, "Who's the least trustworthy person in the house?" And you're like, "Oh fuck." And now it's like, boom. And then it's like, "Who do you want to kick out of the house?" And you have to put a card down.
You
There's no
have to
like,
pick
I
someone.
don't want to put a card. So now you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
God." So it's
Well,
like
it's all
you're
about like
putting it in,
sowing seeds of doubt, right? Like, that's kind
and then
of
like all of a
the
sudden I put your card down, and now you're like, why the hell are you putting me
oh
down? Or you could put someone in your alliance down, but then everybody's like, oh,
yeah
you only put them because you're working with them, and you're just like
yeah.
trying
You
to
give yourself
be
away in another way,
like
really.
coy. So it's like there's no winning. And like same thing, like when they did that lineup game, that was a horrible, messed up game. It,
Yeah,
so like what they
that
don't show you,
was
the game is about an hour long. They don't show you the hour. And what the game was it was like rank yourselves from funniest to least funny. So it started like lighthearted. Everyone's like, oh, Gaspar, like you're a
yeah.
comedian, go to the front. Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
that funny. I'm okay with that. It was like
It's like,
rank
oh,
yourself
stop.
from most stylish to least stylish. So they're like, Gasper, get in the back of the line. Your style
Oh,
sucks. And I'm like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And like the girls were going to the front, but everybody was like laughing and having a
cuts
good
deep only a
time.
little bit, but
But no, but I didn't care because it was like everyone was laughing
yeah,
and having a good time. And then it's like rank yourselves from nicest to meanest. So now you're like all of a sudden you have 10 people saying like
like it
you're the
shifts.
most,
Yeah.
you're the meanest. Go to the end, and they're like, why am I mean? Like, and then it's like now it's like rank yourselves from biggest snake to least. And now you have 10 people trying to navigate. So like my strategy there was I don't have an ego. Put me wherever you
Yeah.
want. I'm not
Yeah.
like these people got like so like obsessed with like, well, I
Yeah.
you want to rank me as third smartest? I'm the first smart, and it's like, who gives a fuck? Like, why do you care? Just let them put you where they want to put you. If you are that smart, you
Yeah.
actually should know that
Yes.
by not
They're
saying
doing,
something
yeah.
is the smarter choice. But they didn't view it like that. They were like, I need everybody to know I'm smart, or I need everybody to know I'm the best at fashion. I need everybody to know I'm the best leader. And it's like, who are you trying to prove this to? Because, like,
Yeah.
the smartest person, and it's funny, like a lot of Reddit comments were like, Gasper's probably the smartest because he literally was like, sure, guys, you fight about being the smartest. No problem.
Yeah.
Like, you got it. One of you is smarter than me. Because
Yeah.
it's like they're arguing over master's degrees. I got them. They're arguing over careers. Like, I'm literally a teacher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I was like, yeah, no problem. But once again, and then I even say it in the show, smartness doesn't, it's impossible to determine because
Yeah.
you're much smarter than me when it comes to Canadian history. Like
Yes.
my IQ
I'm
might be,
probably not, but
but like my IQ might be a billion, but I don't know anything about
yes.
Canadian
Yeah.
history. So therefore, how do you judge a person's smartness?
Yeah.
You know?
I even noticed with the one where they were ranking, it's like the people quickest to be offended were like the quickest ones to be targeted. Cause like almost right away there was like divisions created and you were just kind of like just
Yeah, I
breezy, like
just
I don't know.
posed, where do you want me to stand? Yep, no problem. I'm down. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I got no fashion. Okay. Like what
What do
who are you arguing with? There's no winner. That was the other thing. They straight up told
yeah.
us they're like, there's no winner to this game. So like now you're literally just ranking yourselves based on where you want to be. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
But the games
and
get a
so
little more intense, I think. They get good.
okay.
A lot more like
And
mental games. Like
yeah, it seems and that's what I kind of liked. Now honestly, now that you've kind of explained more of like the psychological process that goes into that, that does kind of it makes a lot more sense for like the purpose of it in a way.
yeah, like
But
it wouldn't have been a physical game show. It's not really
no,
like,
no, no.
like, all right, who can run up this hill the fastest? Like, what would that have proven other than the fact that like some of us are in better shape than others? Like the only thing it would have proved was competition, but there was no
Yeah.
need because there was never a save each other from a competition type of thing.
What were you kind of most surprised about? Like after like shooting wraps up, game ends, like you get back home, like what is kind of the wildest thing you reflect on from that show?
Honestly, well, I don't want to ruin the ending for you, but
No, no, no,
like,
yeah.
honestly, it's ironic that the show is called The Trust, and the people who trusted people and were trustworthy make it to the end. And the people who try to be deceitful and try to change who they are to,
Yeah.
I guess, gain an advantage they're smoked out and eliminated. So it almost just goes to show you, like, the game was called trust. They told us trust each other, be good to each other, and good things will happen. And
Mhm.
some people still cannot do it. It's like, literally just be honest and you will make it to the end of this game. Like, that was the general thing at the end with most of the people who make it to the end, was like, just be honest, and like, even if you screw up along the way, be honest, own it, and you'll still probably make it to the end. And some people could not do that. They still needed to like lie and cheat their way. And it's like, and you got
Well, and I
eliminated.
guess, yeah, I guess maybe you're like thinking, okay, it's a game show, so I'm trying to like
But
I'm being tricked by being told I need to be honest here, but
so, like, one of the people on the show who eventually might or might not get eliminated, she said she went in thinking that she was on Big Brother, and she realized she was not
Oh.
on Big Brother. Like, not that she thought she was on the show,
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
thought she was playing the game like how she would have played Big Brother. And after being there and watching it back, she's like, this wasn't Big Brother. Like, this was not that kind of game. Because, like, you don't ever have to eliminate somebody. So, like, whereas in Big
Yeah.
Brother or any of those game
You
shows, you
someone
have to
does.
eliminate someone. This was
Mhm.
like, no, you don't have to. And like, a big thing for me was always like, I never was planning on eliminating people. I was like,
Yeah.
whatever, unless someone does something to me, there's no reason for them to go home.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, it was always the thought, like, it can't be this easy that you could just like freely fire off and eliminate people. Like, so in
Yeah.
the back of my mind, I always thought there's going to be a time when it's going to be like, and by the way, Gaspar and Lucas casted votes. Good night, everybody. And so, like, that was always in the back of my mind. Now, I won't tell you if it
Oh, if they were
happens or
gonna
not.
kind of expose you?
Yeah,
Oh,
because I always
okay,
thought
yeah.
like there'll be some kind of event where
Yeah.
like you're exposed for who you voted for.
Yeah.
So, because like that's just makes sense. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, to some degree. And it does eventually happen where they make
Yeah.
everybody, it's your choice. Hey, if you let everybody know how much, who you voted for, you add
Yeah.
money to the pot. And if everybody exposes who they voted for, the money in the pot doubles.
Yeah. 'Cause I even remember
That's a
like
crazy. So like that was one of the most intense games because you're like,
yeah.
what's gonna happen? Like,
Yeah.
if you don't show your list, you're a liar and you're hiding something. If you show your list and you lied, you out yourself.
Yep.
So that created a lot of tension. That was a great game.
Yeah, because I know at the beginning, like the Joel's guy. So I mean, this is kind of a spoiler-ish, but like for the first episode. But when you're like, this guy just did up one button on the
Oh
bottom,
yeah,
he was
yeah.
just letting the pecs fly, and but like he purposely went in, like kind of like Big Brother, and like purposely was deceitful, and boom, like immediately
But
was like
and that's
caught.
the thing, because like the girls were like, we know he's lying. We had our suspicions, but we were like, whatever. And he's like, yeah, like he's like, I was lying. Like, I came in lying
He's like, yeah,
because
I
I
was like,
thought,
I,
like, because he's like, I thought that like people would judge me for being a cop. We're like, yeah, but
yeah.
you picked the career of a stripper, which then people judge you for that. So
Like you
yeah,
may as would have been better to say you were a teacher.
yeah,
But yeah, because I feel
but
like
but the reality is, if you're lying, period, it's go unless
yeah,
you are so familiar with, like,
yeah,
if I quit teaching today, but then stop telling people I was a teacher, fine, I could get away with it.
yeah,
But if you're gonna lie and tell me you're a teacher, and then I'm like, oh, like what curriculum? Like, what are you up
yeah.
to? What do you teach? Oh, you teach high school
What's your
English?
pedagogy?
Like, what book are you reading? And if you don't have those
Yeah,
answers that a teacher would have, you're not
yeah,
really a teacher. So
mhm,
like it kind of applied for him too, because he was like, I'm a stripper. I'm like, well, do you do private parties or do you work in a club? Oh, a little of everything. What's like a party usually look
yeah.
like?
It's
How do they
super
hire?
vague.
He's
Yeah,
like, I had questions because, like, dude, you're in
yeah.
a house all day and night, 24 hours together. No phones, no TVs, no books. So you just
Yeah.
like, you're like, hey, let's talk. And what are you going to talk about when you're with strangers? You're going to talk about work. You're going to talk about
Yeah.
kids, about life.
What
And
was
he was
that
always,
like in terms of like you got 7, sorry, is there 8 of you on there? Right?
starts
9?
with 10, 11, 11.
Starts with 11. Okay, I knew it was an odd number. 'Cause, like, is that weird? Kind of just like being in a house with these people that you just have no idea
You
who
know
they are. Or is it
what?
pretty
Like,
natural actually?
for me, keep in mind, like, I'm a teacher, so all day
Yeah,
I'm talking to people,
we're
and then I do
talking.
stand-up comedy where I travel every weekend,
Yeah.
where I'm always meeting new people. Every night, you're meeting new people, you're doing a show in front of new people, you're hanging out in a club with new people, so it's like, like, talking to new people for me is very normal. Like,
Yeah.
like, my wife is like, I would have been miserable, like, having to introduce she's an introvert. She's like having to introduce myself, talk to all these
Yeah,
people, get to know because like don't get me wrong, like it was annoying a little because it's
yeah,
like, all right, I sit and have a one-on-one personal conversation with you, then I get up and then there's another person right there, and it's like you
yeah,
have almost the same conversation with them, but you hear
yeah,
their perspective, and then you go and have another one, and then like you talk in a group, but like people
mhm,
are naturally going to break off and connect,
yeah,
and so like the first day was rough because you're just like you don't know what anyone's really thinking. You don't know if like any words you say, you're like, is this person gonna just like be mad at me?
yeah,
And like,
yeah.
like there were times where like you say things and you're like, oh my God, did that just like make me sound like because like I was like, oh, I have a house. Like I was saying something about my
Mhm.
house, and then like I was like, you have a house? And I'm like, oh God, is that
It's
gonna
like,
be like the reason they want me off? Because like
is this the
I have
millionaire?
like, you know what I mean? But like, you don't know because like in your
Yeah,
mind, you start making up scenarios of like
yeah.
every worst case scenario. You're gonna be like, this could happen, this could happen.
Yeah, because oh my god, it's funny when you say that because the same conversation over and over. It's like when you see your former students, you're like, "Oh, like what classes do you have this semester?" And you're kind of just having those same convos with students all the time. Um, but it definitely is a skill to not be socially awkward and kind of get better at that. Did you notice? Don't say names, obviously, but on the show, did you find like anyone was just really having a rough time with like being
Oh,
in this kind of
100%,
isolation?
100%. So, because like the thing is, you got to keep in mind, like number one, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Period. So like some people went on, they didn't really realize what this was even about. So like
Mhm.
although everybody wanted the limelight, some people
Yeah.
think they want the limelight and then they get it and they're like that's terrifying. Also like you are mic'd and cameras on you
Yeah.
24/7. Like you can't even go to the bathroom
Well, this is
without
what I
the camera.
this is like what I was thinking. Like, are you like taking a shit and they're like hearing
Yeah.
you?
Like you're
That's
like, "Hey
crazy.
guys, I have to go to the bathroom. So if you want to shut my mic, I would love that. If not, um, listen in for more with Mr. Clark After Dark." Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and most of the time they just shut your mic because they don't want to hear you go to the bathroom. But
So
it
do they
is
have people
awkward
on all the time, like listening? I assume.
24/7. There's people on manning the cameras 24/7. There's people listening to my audio, your audio. Everybody has like pretty much a different person because you got to
Mhm,
make sure that you can't just have all audio just like being thrown at you through monitors.
mhm.
So like
Yeah,
everybody's basically individually being listened to. So it's crazy.
that is
Because like,
crazy.
because
Because
like
this
what if
is
we're having a conversation and my mic's not picking up?
yeah.
Now all of a
Because again,
sudden
you
like
could always be getting like new alliances or new content or whatever that you could be missing out on, right?
yeah.
How long are you there in the house for? Is it 6 weeks? You said.
No, 25 days.
Okay. Because this is one of my last questions. I won't keep you too much longer. It was like, how do you get like haircuts?
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah, I mean, so it's so funny that you said that because Joel told us that he was a barber. So I was like, dude, I actually brought my
this,
clippers.
this is my
If you want,
guy.
if you want to, and he's like, nah, not today. And I'm like, dude, all we have is time. I was like, you just like shave
What
me
do you
up.
mean,
And
no?
he's like, nah. And I'm like, well, who kind of barber are you? I was like, I'll Venmo you when we get out. Like, I'll send you money. Like, just fucking cut my hair. And he's like, nah. And I'm like, all right, well, you suck. That's like
Great relationship building.
when I started questioning like if he was even a barber. But yeah, like you and what's funny is they want you to keep your facial hair and everything as like close as possible because like this is like really like insider baseball stuff, but like
Yeah.
they bring you back like 3 days later, they might interview you about something that happened 3 days ago. So they're like,
Oh.
hey, put on the white t-shirt, the gray pants that you had on, and make sure your face
Hmm.
looks exactly like it did in this picture because they're gonna interview you. Because like when a moment happens, me and you get into a big fight, they're not gonna
Yeah.
pull us right away and be like,
Yeah.
interview now because they want to let the fight play out. But the next day or 2 days later, they might be like, "Hey, tell us what happened in that fight." Because like you'll fight, and then it'll cut away to me going like, "Fucking Lucas, man, all this guy does is fucking shit." Like so they need you to look pretty consistent throughout the whole season. Crazy,
Huh, that is crazy.
yeah.
Wow. All right, so I got one more thing to ask you, Mister
Yeah,
Randazzo. Randazzo.
close enough. Randazzo.
Randazzo. Yeah, close enough. I'm getting there. Um, so yeah, maybe one day down the road we can actually maybe have an education conversation. This was beyond my expectations, believe me. But I
Oh,
always
I'm
have
sorry.
one. No, not please. Do not apologize.
I hate education.
It was much more engaging as I go down to my Valentine's dance now. It's like I heard this quote once, and it said, "Education is what remains once you forget everything that you learned in school." What is it that you want your students or people on the trust to kind of take away from their time with Gaspar?
Um, just be good to people. That's it.
Just be good,
Like,
man. Be honest, clearly.
but it's not even about being honest. It's just like be
Yeah.
good to people, and people will be good to you. And unfortunately, sometimes people won't be good to you, and then once they show their colors, you don't have to be good to them anymore. But like, give
Yeah.
people the
You
benefit
cut
of the
them out.
doubt. Like,
Yeah.
give people the chance to rise to the occasion to be good.
Yeah.
When you treat people
Beautiful.
like shit, they're gonna be shit. And if you
Fair
are good to
enough.
people, they will try to be good. For real.
Words of wisdom. Thank you very
Yes,
much,
sir.
man.
Thank you for having me.